When I was a kid, when I was a little boy growing up on the other side of the river from here in Felling, the thought that you might actually see an author or see an illustrator was just, it couldn't happen at all. These people either were dead or they existed in places that you knew nothing about. What Seven Stories does is to really kind of break that barrier between the artist and the reader and the looker. And they bring artists, they bring authors to come and meet their audience. And what that does, I think, is to break down the sense that creativity is something very strange and something very distant and something that only special people can achieve. What children see here is that making books, making pictures, making stories is actually a very ordinary human condition. It's a very ordinary thing that they can become involved in.
Is it easy writing stories?
It's odd, because sometimes writing can be really hard, can't it? It's like to make a book as big as that, it obviously takes a lot of hard work, so it is hard. But some of the best things in stories happen really fast. It's like your head will just give you, do you write stories?
Sometimes.
Yeah, you write stories. So, and sometimes things are really easy, aren't they? You write something down and oh, that's really nice. So it's like sometimes it's peculiarly easy, sometimes it's hard. But really, you do it because you really, really like doing it. Do you like writing stories? Yeah. Yeah? It's great, isn't it? So if you really like doing something, it's like, you play football. Who likes playing football? Playing football is great, isn't it? But it's sometimes hard work, isn't it? You play until you're exhausted, don't you? Yeah. So that's kind of hard work, but it doesn't feel like hard work, doesn't it? And how do footballers become really good footballers? What do they have to do to become really good footballers? Practice. So they play football. So how do writers become writers? Practice. You just write, and you do it because you really like.
I mean, some of the educational projects that Seven Stories have established seem to me to be groundbreaking things. I was a teacher for a long time. I wish I'd had Seven Stories to work with when I was a teacher. The events that I've done, I know that some of the best events that I've ever done have been here in Seven Stories in the Artist Attic, where we have ordinary kids sitting around having a fantastic time and learning through that wonderful thing called play and enjoyment. And what a wonderful thing it is.
The book I wrote before Skellig had been rejected by every single publisher in the country. It took me 5 years to write it, and I sent it to every single publisher in the country. And every single publisher sent it back to me and said, "Dear Mr. Almond, sorry, you're not good enough, I'm not going to publish it." Oh, no, that's a shame. And people came to me and said, "What are you going to do now?" "I think I'll write another book." "You must be stupid." I must be stupid, mustn't I? But one of the things about doing things is, you have to be brave enough to feel stupid. Don't we all feel stupid sometimes? When we're really trying to become something, you've got to feel really thick sometimes. So when people said you must be stupid, I said, I know, I must be. But the payoff was that the next book I wrote was Skellig.
Skellig came out about 12 years ago and was this amazing hit, very popular right from the start. And Skellig has kept on getting new lives. It's a play, it's been an opera, it's been a movie, and it just keeps selling and selling and selling and travelling all around the world.
I leaned over the tea chests and shone the torch, and there he was. He hadn't moved. He opened his eyes and closed them again. "You again," he said in his cracked, squeaky voice. "What are you doing there?" I whispered. He sighed like he was sick to death of everything. "Nothing," he squeaked. "Nothing, nothing, and nothing." I watched the spider scrambling across his face. He caught it in his fingers and popped it in his mouth. "They're coming to clear the rubbish out," I said. "The whole place is going to collapse on you." He sighed again. "Have you got an aspirin?" he said. "An aspirin? Never mind." His face was as pale as dry plaster. His black suit hung like a sap on his thin bones. My heart pounded. The dust was clogging my nostrils and throat. I chewed my lips and I watched him. "You're not Ernie Myers, are you?" I said. "The bloke that used to live here? That old git, coughing his guts and spewing everywhere." "Sorry," I whispered. "What do you want?" he said. "Nothing." "Have you got an aspirin?" "No." "Thanks very much." "What will you do?" I said. "They'll clear the place out. It'll all collapse on you. What are you going to..." "Nothing. Go away." I listened for noises from outside the garage. I listened for them calling me. "You could come inside," I said. He laughed, but he didn't smile. "Go away," he whispered. He picked a blue bottle from the front of his suit and popped it in his mouth. "Is there something I could bring you?" I said. "An aspirin, he squeaked. Is there something you'd like to eat? I said. 27 and 53. What? Nothing. 27 and 53. Go on, go away. I backed away out into the light. I brushed the dust and blue bottles and cobwebs off. I looked up and I saw Dad through the frosted glass of the bathroom window. I could just hear him singing the Black Hills of Dakota. Are you the new boy here? Said somebody. I turned around. There was a girl's head sticking up over the top of the wall into the back lane. Are you the new boy? She repeated. Yes. I'm Mina. I stared at her. Well, she said. Well, what? She clicked her tongue and shook her head and said in a bored-sounding sing-song voice, I'm Mina, you're... Oh, I'm Michael, I said. Good. Then she jumped back and I heard her land in the lane outside. Nice to meet you, Michael, she said through the wall, and then she ran away. And ever since Skellig came out, people have asked me about, oh, will there be a sequel? And I've never thought at all there could be a sequel. But then 10 years after Skellig came out, my American editor phoned me up and said, David, we would like you to do just a little bit of extra to go into the 10th anniversary edition of Skellig. I thought, oh no. But then it was really weird. As I was standing at the kitchen door talking to her across the Atlantic, a white feather fell past the doorway. And I thought, oh, maybe I should do something. And I looked at Skellig, and in Skellig, Mina's always doing sketchbooks and notebooks and things. And occasionally I'd wondered what she put in her notebooks. And I said to everybody, I said, okay, well, I'll do a little bit of Mina's notebook. And she said, yeah, that's the thing, David. So I said, I'll do about 1,000 words. And she said, great. So I sat down and began to fiddle about with the idea of doing Mina's notebooks. And just started to scribble a few little jottings on bits of paper. Because this was what I do. I think a lot of writing is like playing. Writing's really hard sometimes, isn't it? I think writing's really hard. Do you think writing's hard? Writing can be really hard. But there's some things about writing that are actually quite easy. And some of the easy things about writing, if you get a blank paper and you just get a pen, you think, oh, I've got to write something there. Oh, it's really hard. I'll just write rubbish. Right? So you just kind of doodle and fiddle and play. So I just started to fiddle about and play with what might go into a Mina notebook. If you look at a book, it looks perfect. The thing about a book is it looks perfect, totally finished. And I used to look at these books when I was a kid, and I knew I wanted to be a writer, but I'd look at books and I think, they looked so perfect. How could anyone like me ever achieve something like that? But what I didn't realise, of course, was that actually books that look so perfect come from a very imperfect place, which is here, the human brain, which is imperfect and, but of course, wonderfully creative place. So I spend a lot of time messing about and scribbling and playing. When I'm setting off on a new story, a new book, I get a pen, and I get a notebook, and I begin just to scribble. And it's always interesting to take this kind of notebook and show it to children. This is the notebook for a book called Counting Stars. And, it looks just a mess. It's a kind of playful mess. And what I do is I spend a lot of time messing about and playing and doodling and scribbling. And it's like a game. So I do lots of pages like that, and I scribble and I doodle. And I don't say to myself, oh, I can't write that down because it seems silly. And I don't say I can't write that down because it makes a mess. I just get it down, it comes through the hand onto the paper. I think that this is one of the reasons why actual physical writing with a pen and paper is really important. That to go straight to the computer can be too artificial. You know, I believe that your hand and your arm help you to write. I think writing is a physical act. So I do this, I scribble and doodle and play. Then I begin to write more in straight lines. And then I go to my computer, print off pages from the computer, scribble all over those, throw those away. And it is like an endless process of playing and building something up. It's obviously hard work, so you work hard, but also you have to be aware that it's also a game, that it's a kind of messing about, seeing what will come. And then I begin to bind it all together. This is the book I'm working on at the moment called The True Tale of the Monster Billy Dean. And I do pages like that, where there are no scribbles across it. And then eventually I'll build a whole manuscript,
I'll send it off to the publisher. The publisher sets to work and they spend months and months and months and months to produce a book that looks perfect. And when the reader takes this off the shelf and looks at pages like that, they'll say, hey, that David Almond, he must have such a tidy mind. But what they don't see is where it all started in here and the kind of messy process that produces it.
Who likes writing stories? Fantastic. Again, you know, I go, oh, kids don't write, do they? Not interested in writing. They should come and meet you, shouldn't they? I always say that, you know, I should say, you know, you see loads of stuff on the TV about how kids are just hopeless. What they need to do is to bring a camera into a place like this and put cameras on the, you know, the young people sitting here today. And that might help to, you know, lift people's spirits and make them see the truth.
One of the things that Seven Stories does, and I think this has been building up in several ways over the last few years, is it really kind of confirms the fact that literature for children, that illustration for children, is right at the heart of our culture. It's often seen as being a kind of fringe activity, some kind of subculture, but actually stories for children, books for children, are where stories have their start. What we're doing are creating the future readers. It seems to me a really optimistic and creative venture. I mean, I personally get really tired when I meet all these kind of tired adults who say, oh, kids don't read anymore, kids aren't interested in books anymore. What they should do is come along to Seven Stories and see how enthusiastic children and their parents and their families are about books, about reading, about illustration. And I hope that they'll do that and they'll come away as optimistic as I am for the future of books.